Hello, everybody, and welcome to Friday afternoon's testimonial and review of X39 stem cell activation. We are so excited that you have joined us today. We have two incredible testimonies, but I'm really stoked because Dr. Stan Gravely is joining me today, Presidential Director. And I'm so excited to have him here and do this with me. This is our first time together, hosting together. So I'm very stoked. Stan, say hello to everybody.
Hey, everybody. Hope you're having a great start to your Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. Stan and I have known each other for a very long time, and I'm very stoked that he's here to do this with me. So before we get started, David is going to read the disclaimer. And then we're going to have Carolyn go first and then hear from Kent. So David, do you want to do your thing?
Thanks, Laura. All Lifeway products are not intended to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent any disease. If you're pregnant, nursing, on medications, or have any medical conditions, please consult with your physician first. All patching podcasts are for educational purposes only. Thank you. Now back to our great host.
Thank you. All right,
well,
Stan.
I'm just so excited to introduce our first presenter here today. I've known Carolyn for quite a while now. We have been friends, business partners, and over the years and have kept up with each other. But not everybody knows who you are, Carolyn, but just briefly, just give us a little bit about who you are and where you're from.
Great. Thanks, Stan. It's good to see you. Hi, everybody. I'm Carolyn. I live at Lake Norman, and I work in marketing and communications. Met Jody and Stan many years ago, and we've remained friends. They're a lot of fun, and they introduced me to kind of a whole different lifestyle of, living healthier. Even though I've always had an active lifestyle, I was a competitive swimmer, runner, triathlete, all that stuff. They've helped me take that to the next level. So just a little bit about me, and I guess, Stan, you're just going to ask me some questions.
Well, I know when we first found out about the patches, you were one of the first persons that Jody thought of. And we knew that you had been basically having what they call long COVID. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. So just real quick, prior to that, I really have had no health issues my whole life. I've been very, very fortunate. As I mentioned earlier, very active, runner, swimmer, all that great stuff. And I did recently, a few years ago, start to have to go through some chiropractic care because of a car accident that was about 40 years ago. So it kind of manifested into my body and had some pain and different things going through that. Well, fast forward, then I went to a New Year's Eve party, so January of 2021, I ended up with COVID. And I was like, hey, what's the big deal? Basically it felt like a sinus infection. I had a very mild infection, which was very surprising. And I thought I was fine, recovered, it was kind of the normal deal. And literally about 2 months later, I started to notice, like, every morning it was harder and harder to get out of bed. And it literally got to the point where it was so excruciating to get out of bed. The only way I can think to describe it was my body felt broken. That's all I know how to describe it. So here I go. I'm a problem solver. I go off to the doctors, and I'm like, okay, there's definitely something wrong. And it was really, especially my right leg. I couldn't straighten it all the way. I was limping around. It was throbbing at night. But I had unexplained muscle, nerve, and joint pain pretty much all over. So I go off to the doctor. They start doing all the tests, right, Stan? They got to do all the tests, figure out what's going on. They were like, well, I think you need to see an orthopedic surgeon. We're going to send you for x-rays. We're going to do all this. We're going to do the blood work. I'm sure something will come back in your blood work. And of course, nothing did. They sent me in for x-rays. They couldn't find a thing wrong with me. And, here I went from, running, walking, just active, on the move all the time, to literally, I was a couch potato. Thank God we were locked down because I didn't have to go out. I didn't have to put on clothes, but I couldn't even wear shoes. I was, kind of regimented to the flip-flops or, the tennis shoes, and was just really, really struggling. And I was looking for answers, tried to change my diet and all that. And then I talked to Jody and Stan. And of course, Jody told me about the patches, and she said, and of course, my primary, after all the tests came back, they said, hey, we think it's long COVID. And that's all they said, but they didn't offer me any solutions. So again, I was kind of out there trying to figure out what was going on. And then about this time, Jody reached out to me about the patch and said that it could help with long COVID. She'd heard some success stories and this and that, and would I be willing to try it? Well, obviously I was willing to try anything because, my life had changed drastically. So I get the patches, I do exactly what they say. I got the whole, package, the age reduction package, where it's got the X39, the Aeon, the glutathione, the carnosine. Start patching. First couple of weeks, I'm like, I don't feel any different. I don't know what's going on. And Jody just kind of laughed, and she goes, well, just, everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. Just give it a little bit. So I did. And it was weird. About 3 weeks into it, I went walking with my husband, and I was still trying to make myself do stuff, but it was so excruciating. So on about week 3.5, I went walking, and I barely had any pain, and I was still limping around. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I was like, I don't know what these things do, but I'm going to keep trying it. So I was just really religious with it. And I was doing exactly what Jody and Stan were telling me to do. And in 90 days, I started to notice that I was getting a little bit better. 6 months later, I was getting even better. And it was really weird how, it took a while, because it was it kind of ebbed and flowed. I'd get better, and then I'd have a little bit of a setback. And, and Jody kept saying, don't get discouraged. And Jody and Stan were just saying, you've got to stick with it. Some people, it takes them a little longer. And so I just stuck with it. And it was magically, believe it or not, after about 1 year, I literally woke up one day and I was like, wow, I think I feel normal again. And I just couldn't believe it, because, I had gone for so long. It was almost a full year of just excruciating pain. And I've now realized that what happened to me was COVID gave my body an inflammation reaction. That's how my body responded to COVID. And there was nothing that I could do. There was no medicine that a doctor could provide me, no diet change. Trust me, I'd tried all different supplements and everything, but these patches worked. And so it's been 1.5 years since I've been patching. Since that time, I've actually also added on the skin patch. Believe it or not, since I am outside, we live on the lake, we paddleboard, we're on our boat all the time. I do wear my sunscreen, but ended up with a squamous cancer skin thing that was pretty large that had to be removed. And I was very upset about it. It was on my chest, and I was like, oh, great, I'm going to be wearing, the turtlenecks now and that kind of stuff. And believe it or not, these patches, I'm telling you what, you cannot even see the scar. And it was probably, they cut a diamond thing, and they had to do a 5 millimeter around and everything. These things are absolute magic. So I've got my life back. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Stan, for introducing me to these patches. I tell everybody about them. I've got my husband on them. I've got one of my kids is now getting on them. And I just can't say enough good things about it, because they've given me my life back.
Well, what's so great, Carolyn, about your testimony is, to me, it encourages people, don't give up when you're patching. Some people do see quick results. Some people, it takes time. We always tell people you didn't get to where you're at overnight, and you can't expect a miracle overnight. And we have found with the patches that the more we're consistent, we start to see what we call a compounding effect. And those stem cells, need time to rebuild, repair, and rejuvenate your body. And you can pretty much say after 1.5 years, you would pretty much say you're pretty much pain-free, inflammation's gone, everything's going great now for you. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm able to space them out now. So I may go a couple of days without them. But usually I do them like every other day. I really don't want to be without my patches. So I'll do different ones. Like yesterday, I did like the glutathione. Today I've got X39 and the Alavita one on. But I take them with me when I travel. I always try to, share with people. But they are just amazing. And of course, not to mention the anti-aging benefits from them. I've seen that as well too. And then just the earlier stuff that I had with all my chiropractic care that's going to be for the rest of my life because of that car wreck that I had, it's helping with that as well. So just all over good stuff. I just am so happy that that I found this solution.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a question because no one's asked it yet before we move on to Kent. So Carolyn, everyone wants to know, how old are you?
So I am pushing 60. I'm a few
Wow.
years away from 60. So
You're a few, oh girl, don't even put yourself there yet. But you look amazing. And everybody wants to know, especially after people have been on the patches for a year. So thank you so much for being here. Awesome. Incredible.
Amazing story. We're
Yep.
so glad we found the patches so that we can help people,
Yep.
to overcome these things. And man, our next guest, Ken, I'm excited to interview you, Ken. I know you're just turned 78 years young. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. They come
Awesome.
quarterly
I
now,
see you
but,
got your workout there in the background. You're like me, I'm 65 and still working out. And I'm really interested in learning more about your story, but tell us a little bit about yourself and where you're from, and then we'll just kind of dig into your story here.
well, thanks. And like Carolyn, I was a swimmer as a kid. By the time I was 16, I'd actually broken a couple of world records. And it just got me into the habit, as you know, Carolyn, of staying in shape. And over the years, I've continued to be very active. I was a full contact karate fighter for 12 years. I've had, yesterday, Ivy Sully was talking about concussions. I've had more concussions than I can count.
Oh, no.
And but I'm a very active and aggressive mountain biker. And I've had a lot of crashes and things like that, along with other sports. But about 6 years ago, I had a real winner where I went over the front of my bike. My front wheel caught in a groove while I was going down a steep incline. And as it flipped up on that wheel became a fulcrum, and it threw me off the bike and over a 50-foot cliff.
Oh.
And as I was flying through the air, I remember very distinctly, my first thought was, I'm going to die. So
No.
I flipped over, I landed on my back, and luckily I was wearing a camelback full of water, which softened the fall. So I only broke 4 ribs, got helibacked out, and was bleeding, as the paramedic said, everywhere. So it was.
How long ago was that, Kent?
That was about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay. All right.
And the result of that and another snow skiing accident, and as a doctor, you'll appreciate I've torn my Achilles tendons, both water skiing, snow skiing, respectively, torn both calves, had a lot of injuries, but I'm blessed with an amazing immune system, and I haven't been sick literally since I was 10 years old. But I've been banged up a lot, and I call it AJS, aging jock syndrome, which I think a lot of us can appreciate. And
Hey, write that down. Hold on.
AJS. I think you can look it up in the medical books. The Lancet did an article on it. But the point is that the pain in my back reached a point where, before I would go do something like go skiing for the day or mountain biking, I always would take an ibuprofen 800, and it would mask the pain and get me through the day. But I reached a point about a year ago, 2 years ago, where the pain became nagging and pretty much all the time. And there's no way I wanted to continue taking ibuprofen, so I just sort of dealt with it. And then a friend of mine in beautiful Florida turned me on to the patches. And I said, hey, lay it on me. So sent them to me. And I was one of those one patch wonders. I put an X39 on my back. I went to the gym, just like you can see one right here on this photo here. And in the very first day, I felt an increase in my energy. And I thought, well, this is cool. Let's see how this goes. And and wanted to see what the result was of my normal back pain from my injuries, and didn't have any. And so I continued using it. At the end of 3 or 4 days, literally, with X39, all the pain was gone. About 3 months in, and my stamina endurance was pretty remarkable. And I'll to harken back to my days. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I was a world-class athlete. So in other words, I know what it feels like to really be in shape. And there's no getting around it. I mean, when you're in your mid to now late 70s, you're not in the greatest shape you've ever been in, and you know it. You're on the downhill side, right? And about 6 weeks in, I added X49, and I use a 39-49 regimen every single day. And I'll tell you what, I realize, despite my age, because of the stem cell activation, I can literally go to the next level. And I'm now increasing muscle, increasing my strength and endurance. I mountain bike with 20-year-olds and make them cry. and it's pretty amazing. As a matter of fact, I'm a gym rat, and part of my workout is I do 200 push-ups. And a lot of people will say, how old are you again? And I tease them and I say, you see this little thing on my back here? Actually, I'm a cyborg, and that's where they plug me in at night. And
That's pretty good.
So
now I noticed in your testimony, Kent, that you had a trampoline accident with the grandkids. What? Tell me. Tell us about that.
Weekend. I mean, anybody I think can identify. You take a 77-year-old that was much younger, and on 4th of July, and with a couple of grandkids on the trampoline, and I was going super high in the air and doing flips and things. I landed on my right leg cattywampus and really ripped my knee, and it swelled up to the size of a football. It was the next morning I woke up in excruciating pain, huge. I had to go to the ER. They took x-rays, and the doctor in the ER said that, she says, I'm going to have to send you to orthopedics. I got bad news for you. I think you're going to need surgery. Oh, great. I'm thrilled. So the thing about orthopedics is they're pretty busy. And it took 10 days to get in to see the guy. So knowing what I had in my power, I continued X39 and 49. And every single night I put Aeon directly on my knee. I moved around to different places. At the end of 3 or 4 days, I could already see the swelling going down and the pain dissipating. As a matter of fact, getting out of bed was awful, because you know how it is. You throw your legs out and then you're going to have to stand up. And that standing thing was really painful. It was like somebody hitting me with a sledgehammer in the knee. Well, about a week in, the pain went away and the swelling went almost down to nothing. The bottom line is, when I finally got in to see the orthopedist, he took a look at my knee, he did some extensions and things, and he said, you're good to go, buddy. He says, if the pain's not bad, don't worry about it, because you're okay. You're not going to need surgery. You're not even going to need any further PT. And now, of course, it's been another month, and it's absolutely no problem at all. I'm 100%. And one of the fun things about the patches I want to mention to anybody that's new here, and of course, a lot of you know this, when you get into your 70s, you know how your skin turns to tissue paper? And if you just look at it hard, you get these bruises, and they're everywhere. And my wife and I, and she's much younger than I, 69, but the point is that we constantly hated the fact that we bang ourselves. Oh no, now I'm going to have this big bruise to drag around with me. About 2 weeks into the patches, we both noticed that those had gone away completely. And now my skin is thicker, tougher. It doesn't bruise at all, or even if I do bang myself really good, there's not going to be a bruise there the next day. And it's important, I think, to understand, as you know, we have our health tracker, to really pay attention to where are you now, and then after you use them,
absolutely,
where am I in these places? Because you get spoiled about how, well, sure, my skin doesn't bruise anymore. Well, my goal is to live to be 150 and have high quality of life that entire time. And if there's encouragement I can give to any of you, and especially the person that wanted to see this, is that with the patches, and as you start using them on a regular basis, and you learn, I still detoxify a couple of times a week with a thion, and I won't go into details. That's something we all know about. But when you start understanding what they can do for your body, it's going to take you to another level. And you can, despite your age, take yourself to a whole new level of strength and endurance. And my energy is off the charts. And about 2 weeks in, by the way, it gives you mental clarity. I mentioned to my wife, because I was feeling my sharpness really back. And I said, you know what? I can feel this mental clarity and this focus coming back. And oh my God, I just admitted that it was depreciating and I didn't realize it.
Wow.
So
That's amazing, Ken. I mean, when I hear your story, I mean, both your stories, I'm hearing two very active people who are full of zest and life. And life sometimes has a way of throwing us a curveball. You know what, Laura? Sometimes things just happen, even when we're in the best of shape. And, Carolyn, we've known her when she was in that great shape, very active, and, COVID basically took her, a car accident compounded by COVID, set her back, same way with Ken. I mean, here he is at 78 years young, active all of his life, and is now, I'm hearing from Ken, he's got a new leash on life, because now all the things that we suffer from aging, now we're being able, with this technology that Laura's going to share with us here, how is this working, Laura? Why is it that Ken and Carolyn, they're able to repair and heal and reverse age? What's going on here, Laura?
Hey, Laura, before you start, I want to throw out one more important thing.
And I have one question that I want to ask you, but you go first.
What is that? About 3 weeks into it, one day I left the gym and forgot to put on my glasses, and I don't need them anymore. I only need them for reading in the computer. And I've been wearing them for decades.
That's awesome.
It's razor sharp at distance. Anyway, yes, Laura.
So here's my question, and I asked this because in the last couple of days I was on the phone with a lot of people who just can't remember to put their patches on, right? You've only been using the patches now for 9 months, correct?
Correct.
How easy, and be honest, because I think everybody needs to see the picture here. How easy was it for you to get into the routine of making this part of your daily healthy things that you do for yourself? Like, was it ever a question? Were you forgetting? Did you set a timer? I mean, what made it easy for you so we can help those who aren't used to doing something on the everyday to make themselves better?
It's become part of my daily regimen, no doubt about it, for my God, almost 50 years. Every day I get up, I have a protein drink, handful of supplements, and now patch.
Put your patches on.
And so it's part of my daily regimen. And honestly, if there's ever something I forget, is to take it off at night.
Yeah, me too.
Which happens rarely, because of course they don't bother you. You hardly even know they're there. And of course I take them off. And very important, I repurpose them with my puppy. And she's 11, and it shows immediately. And our daughter has a dog 1 year younger who acts like an old dog. And just over 4th of July weekend, I put one on her collar, and within minutes, all of a sudden she had energy, was playful, that we hadn't seen for years from her.
That's awesome.
Those pet lovers, don't forget that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I just want people to see, like Dr. Stan, like you said earlier, it's a compounding effect, and you're going to get much better result if you use it day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Stan, you've been patching for over a year now. I've been patching for 2 years. And as you guys can see, listening to Kent and Carolyn, the timeline for everybody is different because everybody has different things going on inside of their body. So with that said, I'm going to try to fix this screen just a minute with y'all's permission, because I can't see anybody. I can just see Ken. Ken, it's just you and me. So
you and me, baby.
Yeah. So you guys, stem cell activation patch. What is that? X39. Well, I want to share with you this right here is exactly what it looks like. It's a little Band-Aid about the size of a quarter. Now, most of us are used to seeing patches that are transdermal, meaning something is actually entering the skin, penetrating through the dermis, entering the bloodstream, and going to work doing what it's intended to do, whether it's a smoker's patch, a weight loss patch, a hormonal patch, a pain patch. You guys know, you've heard them all. The list goes on and on and on. But with our patch, this is non-transdermal, meaning nothing is going in the body. So one of the first questions we always get, well, Laura, I'm on pharmaceutical, or I'm on supplementation, or I do this, this, and this. Is there going to be any interaction? You guys, there's no contradiction whatsoever when you use this. So please don't feel like you have to stop what you're doing. Remember, we aren't your doctors, and you always have that availability to take this to your doctor and show him, let him know what you're doing. But how does it work if nothing is going in? Well, if you notice, in the center of this patch is a little white piece of gauze nestled in the middle of it. This is where all the magic is that everybody is talking about today. Okay, so within here is embedded organic amino acids, water, sugar, crystals, and oxygen. Now, I say this all the time. These are not things that are found in your kitchen. These are things found in a lab that our CEO and founder and scientist behind this technology, David Schmidt, has invented himself. And when these molecules come together, they form what we like to call a crystal lattice structure. And this structure is embedded in the center of this patch. Okay. Now, when this structure comes together very tightly, it becomes reflective, almost like a mirror. Well, our bodies are low-level infrared light, right? We are light. It's very bright outside where all of us are right now, okay? But if it were dark and we went outside, we couldn't see each other unless we put infrared goggles on. And when that happens, we're able to see all the different colors of light that is penetrating off of your body, okay? It's this energy, when we attach it to this patch, okay, when I place it on my chest, there's a communication that takes place between the center of the patch and the light or the energy of my body. And that bio-exchange information creates a very specific light wave that reflects back towards the skin or towards the body. And when this happens, we are able to raise a peptide in our body called GHKCU, or GHK copper peptide, you guys. This is a peptide we're born with. Our bodies are not new to this, but as you heard Carolyn and Kent talk, things start declining as time moves on, as the aging process starts to take place, that diminishes as well. But when we elevate it, we're now able to instruct the body to wake up, mobilize our own personal stem cells again. Get them up, get them marching, get them moving and doing the things that they're intended to do, like they did for us when we were all younger, okay? So think about it this way. When we're born with an abundant amount of stem cells. As infants, we started out as a stem cell. By the time we're 30, 35, not so much. We have about half, right? Start thinking about 30, 35. I can't see everybody's faces on here, but I know we probably have a couple of 40-year-olds on here, 50, 60, 70, 80, right? We have different genre groups of people here. But go back when you were 35. I had a lot of people say they started sounding like their parents. I can't sleep. I have aches and pains. I can't turn off the monkey mind. All these things start happening because the balance of the body is starting to get shook a little bit, if you will, shaking things up a bit. For me, it was recovery. I felt like I just didn't recover as quickly as I did in my early 20s and early 30s. You guys know what I'm talking about. You get a cold, it took you longer to recover from it. The flu, maybe a night out. I don't know, right? We used to go out late, come home at 3 in the morning. All of us showed up at work at 8 o'clock, fine as wine. but that recovery time starts to fade with us. And then by the time you're 60, which I am 60, you have about 8 to 10% that are showing up. So you can see why the decline is happening, right? And that's why we talk about using the X39 stem cell activation patch with consistency, day after day, week after week, month after month, hopefully year after year. So we're able to build up in the body the ability for it to function like it did when we were younger. You know, a really good rule of thumb that we like using, you know, it's just a little rule of thumb here, is 1 month's use for every decade of life. Okay, so obviously Kent is closer to 80 than he is 70. I know I said it, a shocker, but you're living to 150, so don't worry about it, right? So if Kent and I were conversing for the first time, I would say, hey, man, we're in this together for at least 8 months because I want you to attain total cellular regeneration, rejuvenation, and repair. Kent really didn't have anything going on when he started except the injury part of it, right? Well, we've taken care of those things in the first 9 months that he's been using the patch. If y'all remember, he checked all those things off his list. Now his body is just in a state of constantly regenerating, rejuvenating, and repairing itself. You guys, we have lots of things going on in our bodies on a day-to-day basis. We just don't get to choose where the stem cells go. Our bodies are so innate that it chooses in the priority of survival what's most important. So if you're complaining about knee pain, and you know, obviously from hearing from our testimonies today, this is going to get to the root of the problem. It's going to help the body repair and regenerate, right? But it's going to take some time to do that. So do not give up on yourself. Keep going. You know, even though the stem cell activation patch, you're just now hearing about it and you're thinking, well, where has this been all my life? Well, know that you're here now and you're hearing about it now. And with it only being out on the market for 4 years, please know that we are not a new company of 4 years. We have been in this game of biotechnology for the last 19, almost 20 years. David Schmidt is a man of great vision for the future of not only people individually, but humanity as a whole. And so I encourage you, if you want to dig a little deeper, I want you to go to startx39now.com because you're going to be able to see the 90 plus clinical studies that we have, many of them double blind, which is huge. So none of this is in Carolyn or Kent's mind, right? All these things are taking place just like they have explained it today. But I also want you to see the patents because there's 70 patents just in regenerative medicine and wellness itself. There's many more, but you'll see that there's 70 in regenerative health and wellness. But I think for you guys to learn a little bit more about the company, dig in a little bit more about our CEO and founder, David Schmidt, who is responsible for all of this, I think it will just give you an opportunity to dig in for yourselves a little bit more. And then if you've done that, or maybe now the minute you get off, get back with the person that invited you here. Because as you can see, they invited you because of the great benefit that you can receive based on your laundry list of things that you want to take care of. So get with them because you have many options. They can customize within our wholesale packs. You also have an option of retail. I would not do that. I like saving money, so I would look at the wholesale packs. But get with them because they know exactly what they're doing. We all work together as a team here. So we're going to make sure that all your questions get answered specifically and to the fullest amount that you need. And with that said, I hope you guys have the best Labor Day weekend. I cannot believe it's here already. I want to thank Carolyn and Kent for being here. Stan, you're amazing. Thank you for joining me today and doing this.
My pleasure. My
Yep.
pleasure. It's good to hear these wonderful stories,
It
people's
is.
lives being
It is.
changed.
It is. And you guys remember, we're always here for you Monday through Thursdays at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So you can hear other people's experiences and testimonials, and then hear on Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And you guys feel free to come as much as you want, bring as many guests as you would like. And we hope to see all of you very, very soon. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you, Lauren.
Bye, baby. Bye, everybody.
Great
Have a
team,
great weekend,
call.
guys.
Bye, David.
Happy Labor Day weekend. Woo!